y'all. What's up? Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025. I am so happy that I was able to see a brand new year, and I'm very happy that you also were able to see a brand new year. And also, the fact that you brought Graduated and Grown into your podcast listening rotation is an honor. So, thank you so much for listening. Today, we are going to talk about the new year. We're going to talk about how you can become a better version of yourself in 2025. I feel like a lot of people say the phrase new year, new me, right? Which is funny, right? And a lot of people actually really do want to completely overhaul themselves, become a new person. But for me, I like new year, better me. That is what I strive for. Matter of fact, my word for 2024 was better because I was really striving to be a better version of myself. And we'll talk more about this when I start chatting about books. But the idea of striving to be 1% better every single day is amazing in my personal opinion. And I think that is so attainable for everyone. And it can really be applied to every single area of your life. Look at what you did the following day, look at what you did the following week, and just strive to be 1% better. Maybe that 1% better is you going to the gym today, or maybe it's you choosing to eat a healthier meal for dinner instead of ordering pizza, or maybe it's you choosing not to play games all day or scroll on social media all day and help your family, or actually put more time into work, put more time into school, study a little bit longer, whatever it looks like for you in the various categories of your life. I'm confident that you can be 1% better every day. And obviously, I'm going to be real. We all have our bad days. Sometimes we have bad weeks. But the good thing is, once you come out of those moments, you can go back to being 1% better. So, anyway, I don't want to stay on that topic too long because, like I said, we're going to talk about that more a little bit later. And I don't have a word for 2025 yet, but I was honestly thinking about keeping better because, like I said, I really feel like that embodies like what I want to do and accomplish this year. I was also thinking about some type of word around like thriving because I just want to feel like I'm thriving. And I think I definitely want to use this word or something that has the same meaning, but just really being grateful. And maybe I'll do an episode on gratitude in the future, but I I think I like this little life. And I think there are so many areas of life that I am grateful for. There are also a lot of different areas of my life where I feel like I could express more gratitude. And I think I need to express more gratitude. So I was kind of thinking of adding that for a word this year. But anyway, I'm excited to chat in today's episode. Like I said, we're focusing on New Year, Better Me. I have some resources, some tips, some habits. I'll also share some personal experiences that I hope will encourage you and guide you as you strive to be a better version of yourself in 2025. But before I really get into this episode, I want to say something that I feel like is very important and a lot of us probably struggle with. It's this idea of perfectionism. It is completely okay if 2024 was not perfect. My 2024 was not perfect. It was nowhere close to perfect. And honestly, I don't think there'll ever be a perfect year. And I'm a pretty optimistic person, but I just don't believe in perfectionism, especially with something that big like your entire year. There's no way. It's just not going to work, right? And like I said, my 2024 did not go according to plan in many areas. It was not perfect. And I promise you that 99.99999% of the world probably feels the same way as me. And there's probably a very, very, very small amount of people that can say, yeah, the year was perfect. Everything went according to plan. And that is great for them. That's awesome. But overall, it's okay if life is not perfect. It's okay if you are not perfect. Life is messy. We are messy. We're humans. This world is not perfect. And I want you to remember that. And so throughout this episode, I'm sure you'll probably take some time to reflect or just think as you're listening. But just remember, everything does not have to be perfect. You should still strive to be your best when you can, but it's okay if it's not. Okay, so let's talk about some of my favorite resources where I have either been inspired in the past, something that currently inspires me, something that I've learned from. I have a nice variety. So, first, we're going to talk about podcasts. And since you're listening to this podcast, I can assume you're a podcast person like I am. So, one of my favorite podcasts to listen to, particularly at the beginning of the year, is called That Girl Radio by Ricky Lee. She is a content creator, and I believe she also works in like advertising for a tech company. She does this 21-day series. I think this is her second year doing it, called January, but January, like UYOU. It is so motivating. It really makes you think. And essentially, her podcast is all about becoming that girl. Y'all remember when that was trending, right? Like, I want to be that girl. These are that girl habits, etc. Basically, she breaks down how you can invest in yourself and rebrand your life and get your stuff together to become whatever your version of that girl is, right? She has her own version, I have my own version, and you'll have your own version. It's really, really good. I definitely recommend listening. She's only a few days in because it's still the beginning of January, but you could even start with last year's episodes. And then, if you want to binge listen to everything that she does for 2025, you definitely can. But I love that. Another podcast is called The Mindset Mentor. And I feel like I post about that on my Instagram every once in a while. The host of that podcast, Rob Dial, Rob, he can be very frank sometimes, which I appreciate, but literally, he probably posts like 3 to 6 episodes a week, just all about having a better mindset, being disciplined, getting your life together. And like I said, he posts so many episodes. So there's literally an episode about every single thing you can think of. His episodes are not long, but they're very, very fulfilling. And literally, every time I listen to his episodes, I sit and think because a lot can apply to my personal life, especially when he talks about self discipline. That is an area of life that I really struggle with. But he gives some really, really good tips, tricks. And also, he talks about the mindset of how you can become a disciplined person. So, definitely recommend checking that out. Like I said, he posts all the time. So, you have a plethora of episodes to listen to. And then these next two podcasts are kind of similar: On Purpose by Jay Shetty, and then the Mel Robbins podcast, which I just got hip to in 2024. But Jay Shetty, I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard him or seen him. He's probably one of the top podcasters, I would say, and he has really, really good guests. Like he's had Lewis Hamilton from the Mercedes, now Ferrari F1 teams. He's had, I think Mel Robbins has even been on his podcast. He's had Barack Obama. He's had Will Smith. Like literally everybody has been on his podcast. It's very inspirational. I think he classifies it as a mental health podcast, but I think it's a great place to hear people's stories. A lot of the times they talk about challenges, obstacles, whatever that they've gone through, and just their learnings through those experiences. And they'll talk about their purpose and etc. It's really, really good. And then Mel Robbins' podcast. I really like Mel because she's funny, but she's also real at the same time. And I actually want to do an episode later this year talking about something that I've learned from a few of her podcast episodes. But I feel like overall, she wants to help you become a better you. She is very real, she's frank, but she has so much knowledge. You are going to listen to her episodes with a few bullets that you have in your iPhone notes because it's so insightful. And then last but definitely not least, this podcast called Balanced Black Girl. It is by, I don't know the creator's full name. Her name is Les. I don't know if that's her full name or her nickname, but essentially it's this podcast that helps you become a better version of yourself. The host is very focused on like self-care and like good rituals to help you become a more balanced person. And it's funny, when I first heard of the podcast, I thought it was like a yoga podcast. And I'm like, oop, that's not my vibe. But no, Les has some really good guests on there. I found new creators through her podcast. And in particular, I really enjoyed her. I think it's called like How to Rebrand Yourself for 2025. I think that's the name of the episode. That's really, really good. I definitely suggest giving that a listen. I feel like the title is pretty self explanatory, but it really gets you in a mindset on how, if you want to reinvent or rebrand yourself for this year, like she gives various steps on how you can go about doing that. So, those are some of my favorite podcasts that I feel like can really help you invest in yourself and inspire you and give you tips, tricks, and tools to become a better version of yourself. I think these have really, really helped. Okay, if I had to choose one podcast that I was like, please listen to, this is really, really hard because like I said, they're all so good. It's honestly a tie between the Mindset Mentor and the Mel Robbins podcast. I think I listen to Mindset Mentor more than the Mel Robbins podcast, but I appreciate like Mel's humor and how she lays things out. This is hard. I'm gonna have to go with the Mindset Mentor, but the Mel Robbins podcast is literally right underneath. And I really think the Mindset Mentor is just because he talks so much about self discipline, which is an area that I said earlier. Which, like I said earlier, this is an area that I really, really struggle with. And I really appreciate how he mentions it on a very regular basis. All right, let's move on to books. I know that's going to be y'all's favorite section. So I will admit I was not on my reading game in 2024, which is very discouraging. But I did finish one book so far, and that's the first book we're going to talk about. It's called Eat That Frog. My mom got me this book, I think 2023 for Christmas, and I'm like, girl, why did you get me a book about procrastination? What are you trying to say? But no, it was really, really helpful. Essentially, the highlights of this book boil down to eating your biggest, ugliest frog first, which translates to you knocking out your biggest, most important task first and then focusing on the others. I feel like a lot of us can relate, particularly in college, right? Like, I feel like that's when a lot of us were at our peak procrastination. And we know that is not good, right? Like, when we have a big test, why are we procrastinating and studying the night before when we had 3 weeks, right? Or we have this big paper. Why did we wait until the morning of to write this big paper when we could have done it when we initially got it assigned, right? And so I appreciate how this book mentions at the very beginning, you will never have enough time in the day to get everything done, ever. So, because of that, focus on the big, ugly frog. Knock out your biggest and most important task first. And you can intentionally put off or deprioritize those low value tasks that are very easy for you to do, that aren't that important. You can do those later so that you're focusing your time, your effort, your energy on what really matters. And I feel like a lot of us are the opposite. They're like, oh, let me knock out the small, easy stuff first. But the author of this book really suggests knocking out the big, the ugly, the heavy first. And he also gives this method, I think it was called the salami slice method, where you have this really big task, right? Knock it out first, but you could also slice it into manageable, easier, maybe better appealing chunks or tasks that makes it more enjoyable or easier for you to complete those tasks. And I also like how the author talked about how multitasking isn't real, that you're not effectively doing both things. Your brain is literally just switching on and off, or not on and off, but it's switching back and forth between tasks, and you're not really giving 100% to either of those. And I struggle with that because I love to multitask, and I know I am not the best when I'm multitasking, but he talks about how task shifting is not as effective as you think it is. So that's a really, really good book. I suggest reading it. It's also a quick read. I think it's like 120 pages, maybe. So very light read. The next book, which I'm sure we've all heard of, is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Such a good book. I think I read this back in college, I want to say, but I'm going to reread it probably this year because it was so good. Like, the book is highlighted. There are so many gems, and I was like, ooh, I relate to this. I relate to that. This is good. I need to remember this. So, so good. And remember at the beginning of the episode, I was talking about like being 1% better. A big part of Atomic Habits is this idea that tiny changes are powerful, and those tiny changes will eventually snowball or compound into these big, massive, amazing habits and systems that have really changed your life. And in the book, the author says if you can get 1% better each day for 1 year, you'll end up 37 times better by the time you're done. That's amazing, right? And 37% may not sound like a lot to you, but I feel like if you're like at 0% in a specific area of your life, and you put the effort to be 1% better every single day, and at the end of this you're 37% better, that's a lot better. Because if you continue, eventually you'll be at 100%, you'll be above 100%, you will be an expert, or you'll be thriving in whatever that specific category of your life is. And I love that so much. And the author, he talks about a lot of things, but another interesting thing that he talks about is, instead of having like these random one-off goals and trying to go for those, he says that setting yourself up for success involves actual systems. And that's something that I want to do a better job of, is like having these systems that can contribute to my habits and my overall success. Another book that I loved was You Are a Badass by Jen Cicero. So, so good. I think the biggest takeaways for this book was that the fact that your thoughts are very powerful and they can affect the trajectory and your experience in life, and that it's time to take risks, right? I feel like there are so many big opportunities or scary things that happen in life, but don't get intimidated by those things. Take the opportunity to lean into those and take risks, and you will realize at the end of it, oh, I am a badass. So, such a good book. I also think she has some spin-off books that are like related to like that book. I don't know the name of them, but I've seen them in Target. But it's so, so good. And I think you can read at any point of the year, but I think when you are trying to get motivated and locked in, this is a book you should reach for. Another book that I would recommend is Essentialism. I read this back in college, and basically, I think I picked it up because the front cover was really relatable, because it's basically like a bunch of black scribbles on a page. And honestly, that's how my brain feels sometimes. But I really appreciate that this book talks about like investing your time and energy into fewer priorities. And when you do that, you will likely produce higher quality results, which I think is particularly important when it comes to work. I think a lot of the times, a lot of us are doing a million things at once, and we're realizing I am not amazing at any of these things. But when you eliminate or deprioritize some things, which is talked about in Eat That Frog, you put your time and effort and resources into those big things that really matter, those big things will be amazing. And people will notice that versus when you're doing half quality work for every single thing because you don't have priorities. So that book is really, really good. And then last but not least, I love this book, The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. I was actually thinking about rereading this because it was so good. We all know Queen Shonda, Shondaland, right? The creator of so many great shows. She basically went through an experiment where she said yes to basically everything. It may literally have been everything. I can't remember if it was basically everything or everything. But she said yes to things for a year and it changed her life. And I also learned a lot about Shonda Rhimes. Like I literally knew nothing about her before, but she was talking about how she was a homebody and really didn't like to do things, yada, yada, yada. But when she started saying yes, so many opportunities and experiences came her way. It was amazing. And she mentioned that a lot of those things scared her. So, like, the biggest takeaway was say yes to things and even say yes to the things that scare you. And also, with that, I think a lot of people can very easily say yes to everything, but then you become overwhelmed. So, she also emphasized the point that, like, even when you're saying yes to these things, you still need to take time to take care of yourself, right? You still need to have those self care days, those times off, those vacations, those rot moments, right? That's important because if you say yes to everything, but you say no to self care, you are going to be a frazzled and not happy version of yourself. So, those are just some of the books that I recommend that can help you become a better version of yourself. If I had to choose one book, ooh, this is hard. I'm going to give two. I can't choose one. I'm going to say Atomic Habits because I really think it gives you the frameworks and the foundation to go after the things that you want. And then I'm going to say The Year of Yes. I think those are two totally different books, but I think Shonda's book is very inspirational. And it's also funny. Like, Shonda's a great writer. So, hearing her stories and her situations in that book was also very inspirational. So, like I said, all the books are really, really good. But if you're like, I can't choose, I say Atomic Habits and The Year of Yes. Okay, and then I also wanted to talk about some apps that I feel like can help you become a better version of yourself. This first one is Habit Tracker. I literally just got this at the beginning of the year, but like I told you guys, I have some habits that I'm trying to really be consistent with and be better with this new year. I'm not a very self disciplined person, but this habit tracker app has been very, very helpful. Essentially, I go in, I add my habits, and I actually paid for this. So I paid $5, I think, for the annual pass just so I can really give it a chance. But I put my habits, and every day I need to go in and like mark when I do it. And if I don't do it, I just have to look at the little blank thing. But it's cool because it's like there are some habits that I'm not trying to do every single day, but there are some that I'm trying to do 3 times a week or twice a week or once a month or whatever. And so this gives you the opportunity to like customize all your different habits and things like that. I like it so far. It also sends me notifications. It'll tell me like my streaks for certain habits, which is really cool. And I think you can even like invite your friends to do things with you. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely check this out. There's a variety of habit tracker apps. It absolutely does not have to be this one. Another app that I recommend, and this is for like my people that like to write things down, that might be a little type A or detailed. I would say Notion is a really, really great app to help you become a better version of yourself. If you are into like content creation or if you have a podcast, there are various templates that you can use on there to help you be organized. Or if you need like a good to-do list for work or personal life or calendar systems, there's just a variety of systems in Notion that can really help you get organized. I recommend using TikTok before it's banned. What do we have? Like 10 days before it's banned? I don't know. Using TikTok to see some templates that people have created because Notion can really help you get your life together. Obviously, it's just an app. You have to actually do the work and follow up with things. But I feel like if you like templates and you like for things to be laid out a certain way, Notion can be your girl. And then last but certainly not least, I've been using this app maybe for almost 2 years on and off. It's called Dailyo. It's a journaling app, and I like to get my thoughts out. I actually used it this morning, and I've always wanted to be like a journaler, but y'all, I don't hold my pencil the correct way. It's actually crazy that I went through like what, how many years of school? 20 years of school? I don't know. And I don't hold a pencil correctly. And now that I'm not writing on a consistent basis or for like long periods of time every day, my hand hurts really bad. So I do have physical journals that I will write in sometimes, but if I just need to get my thoughts out immediately, I will use my Dailyo app. And it's really cool because you could like do voice notes, you could type it, you like title your journal entries, you like choose an emotion, like maybe you're amazing or you're meh or you're awful, right? Which is pretty cool. And the app actually they do like a little like wrapped for you, which is kind of cool, but you can also just see your stats. And I think especially if you're someone that is trying to just keep track of how you're doing and how you're feeling, this app can be really, really great. So I do like it. Obviously, like most apps, there are like some premium features that you have to pay for. I have the basic version, y'all. Y'all do not have to pay for more unless you want more. I was actually recommended this by my therapist. I think a habit tracker, an app that helps me like be organized and keep my systems in place, and then an app for journaling have been very, very helpful for me. All right, y'all. Last but not least, I wanted to just give a few tips on like how you can become a better version of yourself. I think one big thing is prioritizing habits over resolutions. Like I think resolutions are great, but resolutions I feel like stop after you write them, right? And I do think it's important to like write the things down that you want to achieve, but I think you have to implement the habits in order for you to make those things happen. So I also think this ties back into the habit tracker, like finding a way to start implementing these habits and eventually systems can really help you. And I suggest that you focus on a few habits at a time or focusing, maybe one a day or something like that, whatever works best for you. But I think it's a little daunting when you take everything that you want to accomplish this year and you break it all down into habits and then you realize, oh, there's 15 habits that I have to start on January 10th. That's a lot, right? So really starting in the areas that maybe are most important to you, which I feel like is almost tied to the eat that frog methodology, or you can start off with your little habits that are easier to implement. Whatever works best for you will work out for you. Another tip that I have is taking time off. I think that using your PTO from work or really leaning into the breaks you have from school or utilizing your weekends or free days is so important because you need to relax and rejuvenate and also get the things done that you say that you never have time for. I have a few like random PTO days coming up this month and I'm very excited for them. I have no plans, but I'm looking forward to maybe like going to the mall and just walking around or maybe taking a midday workout class, maybe going to lunch with a friend during the day. Like I'm really excited for those things and I've noticed that those energize me and remind me why life is worth living low key, just to have those random days off. And I love to do it like midweek when everybody else is at work, everybody else is at school, and I just have like some me time. Places are less crowded. So, whatever that looks like for you, I definitely recommend taking some time off. Using those as self reflection days, using those as recharging days, using those as productive days, whatever works best for you, it's necessary. Another tip that I have for you is practicing financial discipline. I feel like there are various point of views when it comes to this topic. I think some people are like, oh, you're in your 20s. Don't worry about retirement. Don't worry about 5 years from now. Do what you want to do, live life. And if that is your mindset, that's cool. But at the same time, I think it's important to start setting yourself up for financial stability now so that it may be a little bit easier later, right? So if your job offers like a 401k match, do that. Like that will help you whenever you retire, 40 years from now, I guess. That's crazy. I'm working for the next 40 years. That's a really long time. Sorry, I just never thought about that. I think the retirement age is like 66 and I'm 26. So I have 40 more years. Anyway, I'll think more about that later. I think a big thing when it comes to like social media is like comparing yourself to others and seeing what others are doing and feeling like you need to do that or feel like you need to buy that thing. You do not have to. I think one area of my life that I really want to improve is like this feeling like, oh, I need to try this new thing. I need to buy this new thing. No, I don't. I don't need it. At the end of the day, I have what I need. And I am okay with that. And I need to be okay with that. Of course, I'm going to treat myself every once in a while, but I feel like in 2024, it became a regular thing. And I don't need treats all the time. Just because something is on sale, I don't need it. I do not need it. I may want it, but I do not need it. I will get that if I really need it or if I really want it at a later time. Another tip that I have for you guys is sharing your goals, aspirations, habits and progress, all those things, sharing those with your friends. Because I feel like when other people know what it is that you're striving for, I think one, they'll encourage you, but also two, they might try to find synergies between your plans and their plans. So, for example, if you want to be on your fitness grind this year and so does your friend, y'all might start like working out together, or y'all might start being accountability partners. Y'all might start sending gym selfies to each other, whatever. And that can really, really be encouraging. I think I'm really proud of myself for my fitness consistency in 2024. I think like the second half of 2024, I started to be a little bit more serious. And honestly, a big part of that is the fact that I was working out with my friend versus by myself. I think when I do things by myself, I am more likely to cancel, quit, make an excuse. But when I'm going with a friend and also when I'm doing an activity that has a no show or cancellation fee, it kind of forces me to like, kind of get myself together and actually make sure that I go. So I recommend like having a goal, share out with your friend, reviewing your vision boards, or just naturally sharing more about like what you're trying to achieve in your life and seeing what synergies there are with your friends. And if the opportunity presents itself, maybe y'all can work together on those things. You can be accountability partners, you can just check in, all those things. Okay, next tip. So I'm not big into manifestation, but I actually do think that visualizing, well, one, writing things down, two, visualizing, and then three, acting like the person that you want to become is helpful. I think some people say, oh, leaning into the personas of who you want to be. I love that. And I've made vision boards. I've made physical ones. I have one on my phone. I have one on my laptop. I actually need to update it for 2025. But I think those things help me see what it is that I want to be, what it is I want to accomplish, and all those things. So I know a lot of people will say, like, oh, if you want to be that girl that's known for her fashion, then you need to show up everywhere you go. You don't need to be walking around in that red sweatshirt and red sweatpants all the time. Like, change it up. Show people that you are this fashionista that you say you are. Or if you are this fitness girly, right? Which I feel like our minds always go to fitness when we come to habits. But if that's who you want to be, then start being that girl. Start booking those workout classes. Start taking those gym selfies, start doing XYZ, whatever it is the fitness girlies do, right? Like acting like the person you want to become will get you there. All right, y'all. Next, this one's simple, easy. You don't have to do this, but I found it helpful. Taking time off social media. I am not one of those people that's anti-social media. I actually really like it. I think it's more beneficial for me than harmful. But I do think sometimes you can just get wrapped up in the world, wrapped up in other people's lives, etc. And taking some time off not only affords you the opportunity to not have other people's opinions and lives in front of you, but it also gives you the opportunity to have more time in your day. I did a social media fast a few months ago, and I had so much more time to do things because Instagram and TikTok weren't consuming my evenings or my lunch breaks or whatever other free moments of time I had throughout my day. So I recommend like doing a social media cleanse, which is maybe unfollowing pages that you don't need to follow, that you don't want to follow, that don't make you feel good. And then also taking social media fast every once in a while could be very beneficial. And I'm not saying taking a month off. I'm not doing that. Right? It could be a week, it could be 2 weeks, it could be a day, it could be the evenings, whatever works best for you. I definitely recommend doing. I know some people will even like do not necessarily a social media fast, but they just won't get on social media after a certain amount of time. And that there are apps that you can use that will literally lock those apps down. So you can't even get in there if you wanted to until the times that you've designated for social media time. Another thing that I think can help you become a better version of yourself is investing in hobbies. And when I say investing, I'm not necessarily talking about money, but finding hobbies that bring you joy, that you like doing, that help you to connect with others. I think it's so great. I feel like as kids and even as college students, we all had hobbies, right? You played sports. Maybe you were really into gaming. Maybe you were doing cool things for your school's media department, or maybe you did hair, so many different things, right? But I feel like once we all start working, a lot of us dropped our hobbies, which makes me a little sad, right? Just because we're adults and we have like bigger problems now, it does not mean that you should not have these activities or experiences that you enjoy. And it doesn't mean that those things should stop. So I encourage you to find a hobby if you don't have one. And if you do have hobbies today, lean into those more. Take time to actually do those things. I feel like in 2024, I was like really stressed at the beginning of the year and I needed something that wasn't involving a screen to like help me relax and also just have fun. And I remembered, oh, I like to use my hands. And I was just thinking about activities I could do with my hands. So I thought about like pottery, which I had done before. But then I realized, wait, I like to do puzzles. I love stuff that makes me stretch my brain, that makes me think, but I can also use my hands to put them together. So I started buying puzzles. I bought Legos, and it's so fun because when you're building something, it's like a progression project, but also you're stretching your brain a little bit. And so actually one of my Christmas gifts is like this gigantic Lego set, which I'm so excited about. I feel like I'm a little nerd whenever I talk about Legos, but it's fun. And low key, I view that as a hobby, like puzzles and Lego sets. Love it. That's all me. So yeah, figure out a hobby, find your hobby, and carve out time to do those hobbies. And then last but not least, in order to become a better version of yourself, you need to take care of yourself. Investing in your self-care. And whenever I say investing, I'm not always talking about money. Remember that, right? But really, I need you to spend time on yourself. That is so important. I feel like when I am running at zero and I'm stressed and I'm not happy in life, it's because I haven't taken care of myself. I'm not pleased because I haven't taken care of myself. So please carve out those self care days. And also for all my guys that are listening, this is for you too. This is not just for the girlies. Self care days don't necessarily mean, oh, I'm in the bath with my book and my wine glass. That's not necessarily self care for everyone. It literally is whatever you define as taking care of yourself. If that's sitting on the couch all day on Sunday and watching every single football game and literally only getting up to use the bathroom and eat, that is your self care. And I love that for you. It's so important. Figure out things that rejuvenate you, that give you energy, that make you feel good, that recharge your battery. And schedule time to do those things on a regular basis. And again, regular basis could be monthly, it could be weekly, it could be daily, whatever works best for you. But ultimately, you are the most important thing. And you need to take care of yourself. Just like you would take care of your dog or you would take care of a sick loved one, you need to take care of yourself. So, y'all, I hope this episode helped you. I hope that you have some resources to help you become a better version of yourself. And know that I will be implementing a lot of these things in my life so that I'm a better version of myself in 2025. This is a interesting year. There's some big things happening. There's some things I don't even know about yet that I guess we'll find out as the year progresses on. But I just want to remind you that you already have what it takes inside of you. You already have the keys in your body, but it's up to you to pull it out. And it's also up to you to be disciplined enough to keep it out. That goes back to Mindset Mentor. Give it a listen. But I believe in you. I believe that you can become a better version of yourself. And I also believe in that for myself. And so we can do this together. I'm excited to go on this journey with you guys. I'm excited to continue the podcast in 2025. And I'm excited to see where we land at the end of the year. So stay encouraged, take time for you, utilize these resources. And I promise you, if you aim to be 1% better every day, you will be proud of yourself at the end of the year. That's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Y'all already know the drill. If you don't follow us on social media, at Graduated and Grown everywhere. If you haven't already left a rating or review, go ahead and do that. If you're not subscribed or following the podcast, you listen to this whole episode, so you know you want to follow it. Go ahead. And I will see y'all next week for a brand new episode. Like I said, I'm so excited that you're bringing me and the podcast into 2025, and we'll chat soon. Bye.